Welcome in everyone to Betting Weekly Live Champions League preview show edition with Steve Wyss and professional gambler Will White is alongside me. How's it going, mate?
All good, Steve. Hope you're doing well. Good day to everyone out there that's tuning in, and those that watch this on repeat too a bit later on. Here's to a good day's Champions League football.
Yeah, welcome in everyone. Had some comments before the show. Ben, Duncan, Rick, good to see you. Fadi, Azam as well. Generally, yesterday was quite a strong one for the show. Just that sporting game really was the one that let me down. I really like the unders there, and it just exploded into goals. Arsenal suddenly starting to play some decent soccer again. I mean, the big result though that everyone's talking about is Manchester City 3-0 up, and I've got to be honest with you, I actually turned it off. What sort of state do you make City in at the minute, Will?
Yeah, they're in turmoil, aren't they? I actually made money on that game yesterday, and I felt quite lucky. I was on final plus 2.25. But they certainly are in turmoil at the moment. I personally, I think a lot of it comes from the charges against them. The Premier League charges, the 116, 115, 116 charges. I think the club has tried to kind of construct this siege mentality, which is very kind of Pep-like, I guess, but I'm not sure all of the players completely buy into that. And I think a lot of them are kind of concerned about what's going on behind the scenes. So, yeah, they've also had a lot of injuries, right? And they have looked pretty leggy, especially at the back. They've had a lot of injuries at the back. I think they've missed Stones and Diaz a lot. Akanji and Aki have also been out. So, a bit of a shambles. I mean, their underlying data in the Premier League, if you look at the drop off from last year to this year, it's huge. They're almost.
Well, this would be my question, is because I know we've talked about your ratings before. I mean, both in terms of Premier League and also Champions League. It feels to me like this might be a case where you've suddenly got a rapidly downgraded team. I mean, I'm guessing they were pretty damn high. There was a pretty high bar for them.
Yeah.
But surely even you would have had to make some almost manual adjustments here because they have declines, I mean, defensively especially, but yet they are still the favourites to win the Champions League at plus 500 with Bet Rivers. So, I mean, where do you stand on that price? Things can change during the season. Of course they can. Transfer windows, everything. But, I mean, how much of a decline in the ratings have they had for you?
Yeah, I'm just looking at my ratings now. The exact amount, so I've downgraded them by 0.4 of a goal, and that includes Rodri's injury. So 0.4 of a goal is huge, right? It's the difference between being draw no bet in a game and being -0.5 or plus 100 on the money line. So a 0.4 of a goal downgrade is massive. Probably about half of that is due to Rodri. And the Champions League outright, what were they at the beginning? Do you remember, Steve? Were they plus 250 or something?
I think it was about plus 300 off the top of my head.
Plus 300, and they're now up to plus 500. I mean, that's almost a doubling in price. I mean, that's a pretty big move. Surely justified. It's an interesting market though now, the outright, with really 5 or 6 teams, even with Bayern right at the top of the market, very similar prices. There are a couple I like more than others, but yeah, it's
Nigel made a very good case yesterday for Inter at 20-1, and after that win yesterday, they're actually into 14-1 now with Bet Rivers. I mean, you save us a couple, just briefly before we move on to the matches today. Where would you be on the outright market now if you were to play some bets with the current prices? A couple of teams maybe would stand out.
Yeah, I like Bayern and Arsenal. I kind of like them because I don't really like Liverpool, Real Madrid, City, or Barca. I think according to my ratings, I've got Arsenal and Bayern as the 2 best teams in Europe. And I know I say that every year about Bayern, and then they flatter to deceive when they come up against the big guns. They weren't particularly convincing yesterday, although they did boss the game. A lot of it was down. They were playing against 10 men. But those are the 2 teams that stand out to me in accordance with my ratings. I mean, Inter winning and being top of the table, coming in from 20-1 to 14-1, you'd expect that. But I wouldn't be backing Inter at 14-1 personally.
I also like Bayern actually, but I'm kind of gambling that they get it right with Kompany in the big games. I'm just kind of hoping that by March, April, that he's got them really firing the exact way he wants them. Nigel asks, is this the biggest downgrade you've ever seen a team in your betting career? I guess in the time frame.
No, I mean in a short time frame, yeah, maybe if you take the over a 4 or 5 game time frame, maybe, yeah. I mean, half of that downgrade was Rodri, right? So half of that was a 0.2 of a goal straight off as soon as Rodri did his ACL, and the rest of the 0.2 has probably come over those 4 to 5 games. Is it the biggest downgrade in the space of 4 to 5 games? Probably not. If you discount injuries, maybe. But yeah, that's a complex question, and I'd have to go back into the archive to get the actual answer on that.
Yeah, just looking through some of the comments yesterday, I think quite a few people were winning. There was some really good stuff from me and Nigel yesterday. I say it was just that Sporting game really we got wrong. We pretty much nailed the rest of them. So the question: have you sold the piano, Will? Did you get much for it?
Yeah, different location today.
Yes, in the Will White office, crunching the numbers and ready for some actions today. What is everyone's best bet in the Champions League? We've already got some comments there. We, as usual, we start with the 2 early games. We've got go to Red Star Belgrade and also Sturm Graz as well. Red Star Belgrade against Stuttgart. I feel like Stuttgart are always on the early kickoff for whatever reason. Maybe the second or third time they've been on the 12:45 at Eastern time slot here. Red Star plus 290, Stuttgart minus 121 now. Over 3.5 goals is at plus 143. Over 2.5 goals is around the minus 167 mark. This has been a pretty stable market all day, really. I mean, it feels like a game that Stuttgart will expect to win. You know, is this one of those contests where maybe could the pressure be too much? I mean, Red Star have obviously been struggling, but they usually got goals in them. Will Stuttgart don't have Dennis Undav, I don't think, now until the end of 2024. And they've actually, just an interesting one with Stuttgart, 8 of their last 11 games in all competitions have been at home. So it's been a while since they've been on the road, really. You know, this sort of trek here, they are the deserving favourites, I would say, but are they a bit too short?
Well, they've drifted quite a bit. There's been some money for Red Star, which kind of aligned with my ratings. I've got Stuttgart at 0.59 of goal favourites here, so that probably translates to about minus 120 on the money line. So there's been a drift to about that number. I think the one thing it's very fair to say is that Red Star are leaky at the back. They've conceded 16 in 4 so far. In this campaign, both teams desperate for a win. Stuttgart, they average 3.44 total XG per 90 in the Bundesliga. And I think if you just take their results so far in Champions League in isolation, it looks like, you know, they've kind of been much tighter than in the Champions League than they have been domestically. But if you drill down into a bit more detail, those games against Atalanta, Juventus, and Sparta in particular, there should have been more goals in those games if you look at the underlying data. And then obviously the Real Madrid 3-1 loss did kind of contain a lot of goals. Basically, I like overs here. I'm not really sure why the line is 2 3/4. I'd have it more like 3 3.25. And I also quite like the Stuttgart win and over 2.5 goals if you want something at a bigger price at plus 140. That wouldn't be an official pick. I think my official pick is the over 2 3/4. And then I did see a comment asking for my views on shots on target. I do have a really good one in this game, and it's actually in the shots market, not the shots on target market, the shots market. So it doesn't matter if they're on target or not. But Chris Füllkrug, who's almost certain to start here, over 1.5 shots in total at minus 120. Looks a great bet to me. He averages 1.91 per 90 over his career, and he really should be starting here given the injuries to the likes of Undav and El Bilal Toure. So yeah, over 2.75 goals, minus 130 for me, and Füllkrug over 1.5 shots, minus 120.
Yeah, I put his name on screen there, Chris Füllkrug, over 1.5 shots at minus 120. It's worth mentioning, actually. I've got written down here, the tip I was going to advise out was just a straight over 2.5 goals at minus 167. But there has been a big move just in probably the last half hour or hour. Minus 186 now, that is. I mean, the Asian goal line now is at 3 for this game. Over 3 goals is minus 114. So I just think that's now when we're on the sort of fair odds sort of territory. I do like the goals here, but that suddenly changed completely. Just shows you how things quickly can change. So I can't really advise a straight bet at minus 186. But I do like the goals. no doubt about it whatsoever. We like the Furyk shots there over 1.5. I think Red Star, at some point, they're going to catch someone cold here at their own ground. It's these Eastern European teams, sometimes on their day, they can just spring a surprise. And there was a later game in the same region. I think there is going to be a big surprise. I do think Stuttgart probably are more likely to win here. But
I think, I think Red Star on paper are not a bad side. Like, Silas, for example, he was Bundesliga. I'm not sure whether it was Young Player of the Year or Player of the Year back in 2022 or a few years ago. They have some pretty decent players. For whatever reason, they're just incredibly leaky at the back. And I think Stuttgart are likely to expose that, especially if they're playing on the counter. So I just see lots of goals in the game.
Just going to move on to the second game now of the early kickoffs, 12:45 Eastern. Sturm Graz, the Austrian side, against Girona, Spanish La Liga side. Plus 105 you can get on Girona now. The time of going live. Sturm Graz plus 245. The tie is plus 260. There's been a little bit of a nibble for the tie. Over 2.5 goals. He's now on the drift, actually, to minus 115. Two things I've got to say about this game before we go into it. It is played on a neutral venue in Klagenfurt, which I think we've discussed this before. It's about 100 kilometers away or something like that. So it's not their own ground. And there's a goalkeeper injury for Sturm Graz here. Kjell Skreppen has undergone some planned surgery, and he will miss the last 4 games of 2024. A Russian 20-year-old, Daniel Chujatchkov, is going to make his debut in between the sticks for Sturm Graz. He's never been seen before in a competitive game for them, so let's just see what he's about. I mean, I've run into backup goalkeepers who've had worldy performances sometimes, but I think that's got to make a difference. The first time that this keeper is going to be playing for them in a competitive game, that's got to be worth a goal, hasn't it, Will?
I'm not sure it's worth a full goal, Steve, but it's worth something. I kind of was reading some analysis a while ago about how goalkeeper is the least important position on the pitch in terms of the downgrade from first choice starter to reserve. But I think that's not necessarily applicable to first start. And so it's definitely worth something. I actually I was interested in Sturm Graz plus 0.5, but it's not quite there. And then the goalkeeper injury has put me off a little bit. I do have a couple of angles into the game though, but what about yourself, Steve? What do you like here?
I like the bet I like for the game is Girona team total over 1.5 goals. And again, the goalkeeper definitely has made a difference here. I mean, I think Girona now, worth saying, by the way, their injury situation is a lot better, right? The players have gradually been coming back. I'm not saying it's the same Girona as last season, but, I think they can be, like when they were 4-0 losing at PSV, it's going to be a different 11 today. In terms of I'm just talking the bench strength as well. They're going to have a lot more about them. There's a good question for you there, Will, from Foxy. Can you help him out here? Where do you rank Club Brugge as opposed to Girona?
I love that question, and I get how he's thinking as well, because Club Brugge did play away at Sturm Graz in, I believe it was match day 1. And Club Brugge got absolutely hammered in that day from about plus 125, and they ended up going off minus 140 or something. So to answer his question, I've got them about the same. Girona and Club Brugge, about the same rating, but Sturm Graz have had a big upgrade since that game against Club Brugge. So you can't really extrapolate one to the other, but I like his thinking.
Yeah, I like that. Girona over 1.5 team total goals would probably be my third best bet of the day, actually. I think Girona are going to come good. I don't know if I'm going to trust them on the money line or something like that, because they are the sort of team who can get involved in some randomly high-scoring games. And Sturm Graz, how good or how bad is Sturm Graz? I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. Well, they're a difficult side for me.
I actually quite like the overs here, Steve. Like you say, unders has been absolutely smashed in, and I'm not sure I really agree. I can see why people might be leaning unders here. Sturm Graz games so far this campaign have not had that many goals. But again, you kind of got a bit of second order thinking. If you look at them domestically, 51 goals in 14 games, that's almost 4 a game. And then if you look at the individual games and the underlying data, Sturm Graz so far this campaign, 2.59 total XG in the 1-0 loss to Dortmund, 2.35 in the 2-0 loss to Sporting. And Club Brugge, okay, that was quite a poor 0-1. And then Brest went over. So I don't think this is a team, Sturm Graz, that screams unders. And for me, Girona are more an overs team than an unders team. 14 goals in their 4 games so far. So actually, I'm kind of leaning over 2.5 at -114. It might get bigger. If that gets towards even money, then that will definitely become a bet. And then an anytime goal scorer, Mika Beirith, who I believe used to be an Arsenal youth player, under 21s. He's plus 380 anytime goal scorer here. I do fancy Sturm Graz to get on the score sheet. And he seems to be the main man for Sturm Graz. He scored in 10 of 13 Bundesliga starts so far this season. So the plus 380 looks pretty big to me. But main lean is the over 2.5 at -114. It's just keeps getting bigger though. So who knows where that'll stop.
Yeah, this is actually a player I'm not familiar with. You've got me on this one, Will. I don't really follow the Austrian Bundesliga in too much detail. And whenever I watch Graz, I don't know why that this guy has just not stood out to me. But I haven't seen too much of them, I must admit. But Mika Beireth, anytime scorer, plus 380, is... I mean, yeah, I looked at his stats when you showed me the name earlier. And, yeah, it reads pretty well. So if they're going to get on the score sheet, he's probably... the most likely there. Just looking back, Nish, thanks for your picks there. Put a load of them on the screen. Benny, not sure I can guarantee you a Kit Kat appearance. He is sleeping upstairs at the minute, but he might come down. You never know. Effie, good to see you in. Bastian, he says he likes Liverpool, but the odds are getting low now. We're going to talk about the Liverpool game soon. The ref for this game loves the cards, but he can't get on the 5.5 line. I do have some referee stats actually for some games later, but for some reason I didn't check out the ref in this game. I don't know why, unlike me. But yeah, let me just move on now to the later games then. These are the some tasty ones coming up. Let me just get the graphics as we want them. Liverpool, Real Madrid. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger, does it? I mean, these two sides have met several times in Champions League history. Champions League final, of course. I think the last time was it 1-0 to Real Madrid, 2021-ish, something like that. Liverpool certainly have been backed in on this game. They're -141 now with Bet Rivers. Real Madrid as big as plus 350. Over 3.5 goals is at plus 125. Now, I was asking you beforehand, Will. I was saying, well, what is the biggest bet you've actually placed on this round so far in the Champions League, no matter when you placed it? And you were saying you were on Liverpool. And you've talked about this before, getting on early or getting on late. But at this moment in time, you know, Liverpool are worth more to you than any other side heading into tonight.
Yeah, I mean, no one likes an after timer, do they, Steve? But yeah, he did want to talk about this, and Liverpool is my personal biggest bet of the night. But I certainly couldn't advise it at -143. And we have spoken about this before, and about how my view on betting is there are 2 times to bet when in soccer anyway. There's very, very early, so as early as you possibly can, especially if what you see as being value is likely to be a public play like Liverpool here. Or very, very late if you think that your play is going to be contrarian and there might be either syndicate money or just overall weight of public retail money against your play. You're better off waiting till the last minute to get the best price. It's all about getting the best price. And yeah, I managed to back Liverpool before the Vinicius injury at plus money, about plus 117, and now they're -143. So it's worked out for me. It's 60 cents in my favor. But now the decision I'm trying to make is whether I hedge that bet, right? And I know Nigel would say hedging is for gardens, but my view on hedging is a bit more nuanced, and it's all about whether the odds are fair or not. And I think we're verging on Liverpool being either too short or about fair odds right now.
Why are they so short? Because I mean, I've looked at the odds here. I mean, Liverpool are playing Manchester City at the weekend. That's a massive game in the Premier League for them. They've started really well in the Champions League, 4 wins out of 4. They don't have to win this game. I'm not being funny. A draw wouldn't be terrible for them. Real Madrid are no mugs, but I know they're, the injury situation hasn't been favourable for Real Madrid. But I mean, you think now, based on ratings, based on team news, that the minus 141 is fair, or maybe Liverpool overrated now a little bit. But I mean, I'm just trying to find a way that how can they be justified at minus 141? I mean, they're not. I don't see them as that big a difference, that big of a gulf between them and Real Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, this comes down to ratings, and it comes down to how you kind of build out your ratings models and what factors you weight more than others. I mean, there's no debating it. Liverpool have been pretty convincing so far this season under Slots, both domestically and in the Champions League, and you can't really say the same about Real Madrid. And then you kind of layer on top of that the fact that Vinicius is out, the fact that Carvajal's out, the fact that Militao's out, the fact that Lucas Vazquez might be out. I mean, that's a lot of players. Tchouameni is out. I mean, that's a lot of players to be missing. Sure, they've still got a star-studded squad, and they'll put together an 11 that's very formidable here. But Liverpool at home, in Champions League, and Liverpool at home in general are pretty formidable as well. So all of the factors seem to align for Liverpool here. And then any ratings model will have them probably odds on, so shorter than plus 100 to win this game. So, I can see how the price has got here, but I think now it seems to be either about right or a little bit too short. And so, yeah, I couldn't be backing Liverpool at this price myself. I wanted to back overs, actually, but that's been smashed in too, so I've missed that boat. But I have found something, and it is in the shots on target market.
Yes, you have found a shot in target. Interesting angle.
And this one's a bit of a throwback. Do you remember the season, Steve, when Jude Bellingham was averaging 1.32 shots on target per 90 minutes?
Well, yeah, it was early last season, wasn't it?
It was last season. Over the whole of last season, he averaged 1.32 shots on target per 90. That's dropped to 0.58 this season. So it's dropped off a cliff, less than half. But that's because of a certain Kylian Mbappe and a change in position. Well, tonight, I think we might be seeing a bit of a throwback in terms of Bellingham's positioning. I think he'll play in the false nine. I think Mbappe will come off the left. And I think we should be using that 1.32 shots on target per 90 benchmark more than we should the 0.58. And I was pretty shocked to see him being plus 100 to have over 0.5 shots on target tonight. Is it plus 102 now? Wow.
It is plus 102 now. Jude Bellingham to have over 0.5 shots on target, just to hit the target once or more. That's at plus 102. And I think, he is playing in England here. It might make him even more motivated to make an impact. I think Real Madrid play tonight. I really do. I think they put on a performance. I tell you what, I'd be leaning towards the hedge if I were you here from a footballing angle. I'm not talking a business angle here. I'm not sure about.
We need the Bart Simpson meme, don't we? Yeah,
I'm not sure about.
I'm considering it. I agree with you, actually, Steve. I think if they can weather the first 15 minutes, I think Real Madrid might get something here. They are super decimated, though, and I do worry for them, especially in midfield and at the back. But Asensio looks like he's quite a prospect. The guy that's the kid that's going to be filling in for Militao at the back. He looks like quite the prospect, and so a bit of a Rolls Royce of a defender. So yeah, I can see them getting something here.
There's some really good comments about this game. I'm looking at them all, and some are on the Liverpool camp, some are on the Real Madrid camp. Obviously, for some people will look at this, including myself, a little bit. This must be one of the biggest prices that Real Madrid have been in any match in the last 5 years, 10 years even.
Well, Man City away, I think they were a lot bigger. But
it's not often you'll get Real Madrid at plus 350. Anywhere. So plus 200, someone said the draw no bet. So I can see the appeal. There's lots of different ways you can look at this game. Good luck, whatever you take it. I'm not having a bet in the game myself, but good luck, whatever direction you go down, Will, with your own pre-game. And it's really interesting. Just how early did you get on this, just out of interest? And how did you did you predict that these odds would come in for Liverpool?
Yeah, essentially that was it. I got on probably about a week ago, I think. Kind of over the course of a few days in different spots, using different books. And and kind of averaged a pretty decent price. It was before the Vinicius injury, right? So they were still plus money before Vinicius was announced out. So that's definitely worked in my favor. But yeah, it's like a modeling exercise, right? Like, I can see why the books opened Liverpool at plus money here, because it just doesn't feel right them being odds on against Real Madrid, especially if Vinicius was playing. But they opened the odds against and or plus money, and my ratings were screaming massive value Liverpool, so I just backed them.
Very good. Well, best of luck, whatever anyone's taking in the game. This is one to watch for me. I've got a good feeling Real Madrid might be overpriced, but I am just going to sit and enjoy this particular game. I think there's better bets elsewhere. Celtic Club Brugge, I do have a bet in this game. For those who can get on it, it's actually in the cards market, but Celtic are plus 102 to win. The ties at plus 265. Club Brugge at plus 250, over 2.5 goals, minus 152 now. There's a referee I want to talk about here. It's a Ukrainian referee called Georgy Kabakov. Sorry, Bulgarian referee. This guy has a huge career average for cards when he's reffed in the Champions League and Europa League. He averages well over 5 cards per game. In 10 of his last 12 games officiated in UEFA competitions, including internationals, he has given at least 2 cards to both teams. So he likes to even things out, Will. And I think over 5.5 cards for those who can get on it. I know we can't get on the cards in all states, in certain territories, but over 5.5 cards at plus 108, I do think that's worth a go. Not a major wager, but it's worth a go just based on this referee. I'm just looking at the stats and stuff, penalties and stuff as well, red cards here and there. He's going to make things happen on the field. He's not going to let them get away with anything, Will. In terms of match result for me, finding this one difficult because I never get Club Brugge that right. Celtic, nearly odds on, nearly minus money. That I'm not sure if that feels right to me, but yeah. I mean, what's your take on this game?
I like Celtic. I think they're underrated still, especially at home. They're 2 pretty convincing wins at home so far this campaign against Slovan Bratislava, very poor Slovan Bratislava, and Leipzig, who have had a poor season, but still, it's Leipzig. I think, granted, Bruges were very good against Villa, but Villa seemed to me to be a team that's not necessarily in decline, but running on fumes due to the fixture list and injuries, etc. But I do have Bruges as a top-rated team in Europe. I've got Dan's voice in my head right now saying Brugge and not Bruges. So sorry, Dan. Yeah, Brugge. I do have them the top-rated team in Belgium, and I do think they're a good team. But I think for me, the home field advantage should get Celtic across the line. But they've been on the drift a little bit, and I'm hoping that steam continues to go against them. And maybe if we get the minus a quarter line at kind of minus 120 to have some half protection on the draw, then I might look to pull the trigger. So yeah, that's my thoughts. If you can get the minus a quarter at a fair price, I'd be looking to bet that.
Duncan Evans says he doesn't rate Celtic, but they always seem to turn into prime 2011 Barca at home in the Champions League. There is a factor here. Celtic Park on a European night can give them an edge. It hasn't always been the case when they've been a poor or average team, but this is a better version of Celtic this season. It's a surprise here, 2 or 3 saying Celtic the best bet of the day. Foxy Ming, I don't know. Celtic, well, fair play. I mean, I'm not getting involved in the match result here at all, but maybe Celtic are a bit better than I maybe give them credit for. Club Brugge, for me, difficult side to judge. They can be anything on the day. 2 wins, 2 losses so far. Tend to get found out by the better teams, I always find. How good are Celtic? Maybe, I mean, they beat Leipzig. That was a good performance. They did play very well in that game, no doubt about it. So keeping your eye on there. If Celtic were to drift on that minus a quarter goal line, you'd be looking to get all over it, Will, by the sounds of it.
Basically, yeah. Hoping for a bit more of a drift, Steve.
Right, I'm going to talk about an interesting game now. Aston Villa against Juventus. Juventus at plus 230 on the money line for this particular contest at Villa Park, which initially looked really big to me. And then you look at the team news and you're thinking, well, it's Juventus are not in a good way. Aston Villa plus 130 on the money line. They've been in poor form suddenly, Villa, in all competitions. I think they're winless in 6 straight games now in all comps. I don't really know what's happening because they look really good around sort of September, October, but it seems to have fallen apart a bit. The defence has not helped them out. Lack of clean sheets in certainly the Premier League, although in Europe they did beat Bologna and Bayern Munich 10-0. Juventus are missing players. They're lacking strikers. They're probably going to have to go with a shadow striker or a false 9 in this game. They ground out a 0-0 draw at the weekend against AC Milan. And I just wonder if the similar sort of approach is what they're going to try and do here, because they know what their strengths are. They know, the lack of sort of team, attackers that are going on there. I mean, Villa Juve, Kushel said it right there, 0-0. And the 0-0 kind of sprung to my mind here. This looks an obvious under 2.5 goals game, in my opinion, because of the way that I think Juventus are going to approach it. It's going to be a good old-fashioned Italian performance. They come here, they take a point and move on. And Aston Villa, they're not experienced in the Champions League. Suddenly, there's an expectation on them, and players look at odds, managers look at odds. They are the favourites. Can they cope with that sort of favouritism? That's what I'm going to put out to the chat here. Does anyone trust Aston Villa here at plus 130? Even though Juventus have got a lot of injuries on the board, I still think the experience of the Italian team may well get them over the map. Foxy saying Villa won't win today, and they'll get beat on Sunday by Chelsea. The honeymoon is over for Villa. No clean sheet in 10 home European games for Celtic. That's an interesting stat from the last game. A draw, says Lee. Villa versus Juventus is a draw. I do like the under 2.5 here. It's at minus 157. I'm struggling to see where the goals come from, especially from a Juventus point of view. Are these odds fair, Will, in light of the team news?
Yeah, basically exactly that. It's a no-bet game for me. I think the prices are about right. I wanted to back under 2.5, but it's been backed in and it's a little bit short for me now. I think there are a lot of question marks in regards to lineups. Both teams decimated by injuries. If I was to throw a bone out there, if bettors were really wanting to have a bet on this game, I think Morgan Rogers looks a bit too big at plus 117 to have a shot on target, but that's mainly just a lean and based off, not really based off stats. It's more based off vibes, really, and kind of the fact that he is becoming Villa's main man, really, against a very, very tight, stingy Juventus defense. So it's not really a strong feeling, but yeah, tough game, really, this one.
I wouldn't honestly be surprised by 0-0. I think a draw suits both teams perfectly in terms of the table. And, I don't think, just looking at the comments here, I don't think anyone really fancies either team to win. Quite a few people down on Villa. Juventus, obviously, with the team news. It could be a draw. Like, sometimes it's the draw. If you don't fancy any team to win, the draw often is the right sort of outcome. I would definitely think that under 2.5 goals at minus 157 is probably my best totals bet of the day. If someone said to me, give me a straight over 2.5 or under 2.5 bet for the day, this would be the one. I'd go under 2.5 Villa against Juventus. On to the match in Zagreb. Dinamo Zagreb against Borussia Dortmund. Dinamo are plus 425 now on the money line. Dortmund at minus 159. I've got a feeling Dortmund are really going to suck people in at this price. Minus 159. The team that got absolutely battered by Bayern Munich on the opening night. Was it 9-2? But they haven't rebounded too badly, Dinamo Zagreb. I mean, fair play to them. They've picked up quite a few points since. They're probably one win away from qualifying for the actual knockout round, maybe even 1 point away. So they had a good 2-2 draw against Monaco, beat Salzburg and Bratislava away. This is a difficult test for them. I've got a feeling there could be a shock down here. This is going to be my dog of the day, Dinamo Zagreb. I like both teams' score, yes, minus 143. I do like the overs. And I do wonder, Will, if we could get a real random result where Zagreb, Dortmund can lose to anyone on the day this season, it feels, and plus 425. I'm strongly debating. Or this might be a mad moment of me, Will. I've got a feeling.
It wouldn't be.
I have got a feeling that your ratings are going to have Dortmund as maybe a bit of value here. That's just my gut feeling.
No, you're wrong, Steve. I was also originally interested in Zagreb plus 3/4. But that's waned quite significantly. They're going to be missing Misic and Ademi here. And Misic, I think in particular, is quite a big absence. And so, yeah, they have been impressive after a rough start. And anyone can get done by Bayern Munich away, especially. I think for me, the total's more interesting here. Unders is another game where Unders has been smashed off the boards from 3 to 2 3/4. And I'm not really convinced in the case for unders, Steve. I think, just the raw stats, Dortmund, 14 goals in 4 so far. Zagreb, 22 in 4. I mean, even if you take out the Bayern game, that's 11 in 3. I think the reason why I can't make this a bet, and it's only a lean on the over 2.75, is will those Zagreb's absences kind of stifle them offensively? I've kind of tried to figure out who will be coming in for them. And I think for Misic, they might play a kind of a defender in holding midfield. And it feels like they're going to set up quite defensively here. Because, they're doing all right, in terms of the league table. They're doing okay. So, that would be a lean on the overs.
Yeah, I do like the overs here. I think both teams score, yes, is one of my better bets of the day at -143. I do not trust the Dortmund defense, and I think Zagreb can give it a go. They've only had 2 of their last 9 games in all competitions at home, so I think they'll be quite pleased to be back in front of their own fans. Yeah, I've said before, these venues in Eastern Europe, at some stage, there's some big teams are going to come a cropper here. I mean, you could say Monaco already did. 2-2 draw. No one expected that. They nearly lost the game, Monaco. It was just a late comeback that got the minute. Dortmund did win at the weekend, but I think they could be looking ahead here. There's a massive match at the weekend. The Klassiker, the classic of Germany. Bayern Munich travelled to Dortmund. That's a huge game, and I think they could be looking ahead. Just a quick before we move on, the referee is my good old mate, Clement Turpin, French referee. We're going to give him a round of applause here. Raise his back. This is going to be his 50th Champions League appearance as a referee. So well done to him. I have said before with this referee, I've watched his style for years. He lets a lot go. And I like that. I do like that. He lets players play football, lets them get stuck in and all that. But you give players a license for that, Will, and eventually someone goes in too hard. And this referee was a reason why he averages about 1 red card every 3 games that he officiates in major competitions. It's because eventually the players just let loose too much. And with VAR coming in, he's the sort of ref who will have to go up the screen and give a red. I think red card, yes, is worth a look with any match in the Champions League with Turpin. Plus 460 for those who can get on the cards. He don't get on the overcards because he doesn't give many. That's the whole kind of logic behind this. But when the card comes, it's often a red one. It's kind of a mad one, really. But you watch the way he officiates, he lets a lot go. Don't be getting involved with fouls. Don't be getting involved with overcards. Effie says he would rather risk Zagreb at 425. Yeah, I mean, I'm debating a little nibble. Coach Zanko, welcome in. Good to see you. You cashed on some live bets yesterday. Good to see you in the winners. So yeah, Zagreb, Borussia Dortmund. I think it's a very interesting game. Good luck anyone getting involved with it. I certainly am. Bologna Lille. I think the odds look the wrong way around here, Will, personally. Bologna plus 135 favourites. They haven't even scored a goal yet in this competition this season, I don't think. Plus 135 for Bologna. Lille plus 225. Beat Real Madrid, beat Atletico Madrid. I think Angel Gomez is suspended. But this should be a pick'em, surely? Just off the top of my head, this looks wrong, these odds.
I've struggled with this game, and in terms of finding value anyway, obviously we've got 2 teams with contrasting fortunes, really. And so maybe there's a bit of Bologna needing the win more factored in here. But really, my ratings have them about equal. And so when you factor in home field advantage, that kind of makes the odds make a bit more sense. I just think it's really, really tough to call. Might be quite an attractive game to watch with some 2 lesser kind of known teams going at it. There is a bet I really like though in the old SOT market.
Yeah, we're going back to an old faithful here, aren't we? An absolute legend
Yeah.
of, I mean, nearly every time that we talk about Bologna, this player is reliable. It's a good old Orsolini, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got to be done, Steve. We've got to go there again because he keeps getting priced up as if he's not on free kicks and penalties. Minus 110 over 1.5. Riccardo Orsolini, shots on target. Look at his stats from the last 3 seasons. He's averaged 1.05, 1.10, and 1.14 shots on target per 90. He's on free kicks and penalties. He shouldn't be anything like that price. I promise that's my last shots on target pick for this show, for this episode anyway. But yeah, that's what I like, really. And if the value's there, if Bet Rivers is offering up the value, then I think we've got to tell bettors to go out there and take it.
Effie says Jonathan David, anytime goal scorer. I looked at that. I think he's plus 215 with Bet Rivers. I mean, he's the most likely scorer for Lille. It all depends if you think this game's going to be an over or an under, really. And I can't make up my mind, actually, because at some point, Bologna have got to go for it, right? I mean, they're 1 point in the table. But they have lacked goals. This is my general problem with this team. I mean, no goals in the Champions League. In Serie A, they do struggle for goals at home. They've only had 1 home win all season in all competitions. So, I mean, they've had a lot of draws. I mean, I can see why the draw is going to be a popular play here. But what use does a draw really do them apart from neck them 900,000 euros? Then it's not going to help them in any way. They need to win the game. I mean, looking at the table, I'd go Lille here. I think Lille are the better coach side. I think they're the better team anyway. I mean, you rank them level there on the ratings. I think Lille are better than Bologna from what I've seen. And I don't think a draw wouldn't be bad for Lille, by the way. They'd take a point, I think, if you offer them now. But Bologna, I've just not seen anything from them, Will, which makes me think that they are anything more than sort of an average Serie A side. They're a top half side, but nothing more for me. I'm just surprised. I thought this would be Monaco came here, and I think they're slight favourites, about plus 160.
Yeah.
And for me, Lille are not much worse than Monaco. So, I'd have them at the same odds, maybe plus 180, I think would be fair on Lille. So I'm surprised by the odds. Does both teams score? Yes, makes some sense here, says Tammy Fagan.
Oof, what is that? I think it's minus 120, isn't it? Which is
minus 120
price for both teams to score. Yes, not for me. I'm also trying to figure out whether this is an over or an unders game. Obviously, under 2.5 is favorite here, but this is really tough to call, and so it's a no bet. Pretty accurately priced, in my opinion.
The referee is Michael Oliver, English referee, another very, very experienced referee. There's been some headlines about English referees coming out today. I've got the feeling there might be quite a bit of a spotlight on Michael Oliver today. He does average 5.5 cards per game this season. So he has been dishing out the cards for those who are interested in the cards. And I don't know what it is about these English officials. It'll be, obviously, the VAR team will be English as well. They do like to make a name for themselves and make sure they get the right decisions. So you keep your eye on the cards in running here, perhaps. Monaco, another French team, against Benfica. And this is where I actually think exactly what you said for the last game. I think it looks priced up pretty accurately in terms of the money line, the Asian handicaps. Quite like the goals angle here. I'll be looking at overs rather than unders. Monaco plus 128, Benfica plus 200, Thai plus 265 feels about right to me. I mean, for me, it depends which version of Benfica shows up because they're very inconsistent.
How good is Akliouche, by the way, Steve? He's some player, Magnus Akliouche for.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at him actually as a prop bet today to score any time because if anyone who watched the game against Brest on Friday, he just looks like an unbelievable finisher, an actual finisher of the ball. His composure, this is from a pure footballing soccer perspective, just looks like a natural finisher. He's someone, if he's going through one-on-one or if he's in a position, he's starting to become a player you'd have your house on, really finishing, or at least hitting the target, because he doesn't panic. I just think he's a really fine footballer who's going to become, I think, world-class.
Yeah, I think he's going to the top, yeah.
Absolutely. What's your thoughts on the game, though, here?
It's an attractive-looking game with two teams that have been in really good form this season. natural instinct is to want to side with overs, to be honest. Benfica games in particular tend to be full of goals. But what makes it only a lean as opposed to an actual bet is that this Monaco defence has been so much stronger this season. They're only conceding 0.77 XG per 90 as opposed to 1.25 last season. So they've almost cut their XG conceded per 90 in half this season, which is quite incredible and slightly puts me off the overs. But it is a lean. And as with all leans, if the odds improve by, let's say, 10 cents, if that minus 120 becomes minus 110, then generally I'll be pulling the trigger. So watch this space for the overs.
I like the over here. Over 2.75 goals will do me. This is my second best bet of the day at minus 129 now. Monaco, I think, 1 clean sheet in 12. They always think they give you a chance, just the way they set up. I don't think teams fully take advantage of it all the time. And Monaco, I've had players in the last year or two who have been able to somehow recover some very dangerous positions with their physicals. They've got quite a lot of pace in the team, youngsters. But I think the goals here, Benfica are a side who I just don't really know how good or bad they are. I mean, they beat Porto 4-1 domestically recently. That's not bad form, is it? Are they the second best side in Portugal right now? Maybe they are, but I don't really see why this would be a close, tight game. South coast of France, nice bit of weather, probably the most tropical game of the night, really, in terms of conditions. I think this is a good watch. I think it could be 3 goals at least or more there. Jason Galvin has put what's his bet there? He's got some bets on Modric plus 1,000. It's the second one. I think he made a spelling mistake on the original one. That's an interesting angle there. Remember, you can bet on loads of different markets with Bet Rivers, not just shots and shots on target. Fouls are in there, corners, everything. I mean, there's so many bets available on each contest. You're looking at nearly 500 bets on the Liverpool game you can get on. So whatever your angle is, whatever your niche is, you can get involved here with the Champions League. I've got one more match to talk about. It's PSV Eindhoven against Shaktar Donetsk. This is my best bet of the day. It's in the newsletter for those who subscribed. Do subscribe to the Betting Weekly newsletter. There was a comment earlier which someone put up about a goal scorer in this game, and I do agree with it. Ricardo Pepi, the former FC Dallas man over there in MLS, is plus 132 to score because we don't know the lineup for PSV. We don't know if Luke de Jong is going to be fit to start or on the bench. There's some PSV fans think that Pepe's better than de Jong now anyway. They are a strong favourite, and I said this last night in the Leverkusen game, and I was on Schick to score any time. It's a short price favourite, but the starting striker is quite a big price to score, plus 132. I think that's a good little angle in here. Shakhtar Donetsk, where do you rate them at the moment, Will?
I think they're an interesting team. They were interesting in terms of, like, if you watch the market movements on them, game week 1, game week 2, Bologna and Atalanta, they were opposed by sharp money. How can you tell that it's where sharp money is going? Well, generally it's you watch the odds and you watch the market movements, and a lot of money, let's just say, came for Bologna and Atalanta in game week 1 and 2 versus Shakhtar. But then they were supported by sharp money in game week 3 and 4 against Arsenal and Young Boys, respectively. So the sharp players out there have seemed to have had a kind of a change of hearts on Shakhtar, and that does also align with their domestic form. They're definitely in much stronger form now than they were at the beginning of the season. And so for me, I think they're going slightly underrated here. But on the flip side, PSV themselves are really, really tough to oppose, especially at the Philips Stadion, where they're undefeated in the last 8 in Champions League, thrashing Girona 4-0 in game week 4. I think Luke de Jong will start. I also think that Lang will start. So that I'm not so sure about that Pepe bets, although, you get your stakes refunded, right, if he doesn't start. So it's
make sure that exactly. You'll get a refund if he doesn't start. And he's actually the sort of player, Pepe, if he comes on the pitch in running, I might look to get on him to score, because I think he will come on at some point. He's in good form, like Bastian said there. Max is Pulisic yesterday, Pepe today would be a good run for the US players, wouldn't it? I mean, Shaktar are always a difficult side, I think. I mean, they beat Young Boys last time out, but that's looking like a very easy draw at the minute. The Young Boys might be one of the worst teams in the competition. I can't get it out of my head, the match when they got beat by Atalanta 3-0 in a supposed home game. They got absolutely, I mean, it could have been 10. I know Atalanta are good, but I just like, it was like, you know, waving the white flag. It was really poor.
So I think I can guess the newsletter bet, Steve. I'm not going to say it, but I don't know it, but I think I can guess it from the way you're talking about Shaktar. Put it that way.
Well, you know, it might be a goals angle. You never know, do you?
But either overs, isn't it, or PSV? It's got to be one of the two, surely.
Yeah. So let's go through some data for today from the traders, Bet Rivers traders, some notable bets. That is the biggest bet so far. PSV Eindhoven on the money line is the most significant wager at Bet Rivers today. The most popular plays by percentage of UCL tickets is Borussia Dortmund on the money line against Dinamo Zagreb. I said I do think that Dortmund price is going to suck a lot of people in. I couldn't be having any part of it with the match against Bayern Munich at the weekend to look ahead to. Just going back to the split on this game, 82% of the money is on PSV Eindhoven. I expected a bit more, actually, which might suggest that a few, you know, that maybe there has been a little bit of sharp money on Shaktar Donetsk here. But I'm not really entirely sure. Going back to Benfica, Monaco, 66% of the money on the over in that game. In Juventus Villa, nearly more money on the under than the over. Now, you'd rarely get that because the over is just naturally more popular bet, but 49% of the money is on under 2.5 goals. I do think, looking back, Juventus against Aston Villa I think under 2.5 is definitely a play there. But I'll say my best bet is in that newsletter. You know, do subscribe to that newsletter. Second best bet for me of the day is the Monaco Benfica over 2.75, and followed by Juventus Villa under 2.5 goals. But I don't know, what would be your best bet today? We know which bet you've got the most money on, Will, but what would be your best bet right now?
I think Celtic actually might be my best bet. Celtic. -1/4. If that does tick up to the -120 mark, with half cover on the draw, yeah, Celtic -1/4. Otherwise, it would be one of the shots on target bets. Probably Bellingham. Even money seems too big. Yeah, there are lots of options. I think it's a really interesting card today. Really good one for bettors to get tucked into. But Celtic -1/4.
Yeah, when we were talking about the Celtic game, I think there were 3 or 4 comments saying Celtic is the best bet of the day. I'm starting to get convinced myself here. Can I trust these Scottish champions? EU4 says the odds on Liverpool is crazy against the best team in Europe for the last few years. So overrated. We had a great debate earlier. You can watch back if you weren't watching at the time. You know, it's an ultimate game, this Liverpool Real Madrid game, I must say. But before we go, let's answer this final question from Thomas Tosa. Can Liverpool score 2 goals in the match? Are you going yes or no?
I think that's more a request than it is a question, but yes, they can.
I think
I think they will, yeah.
They can. I think they can score 2 goals in the match as well. Doesn't mean they'll win. Right, that will do for the show. Thank you very much, Will. As always, good to have you with me here on the Champions League preview show. Thanks everyone who joined in live on demand. So many comments. It's great to see you all getting involved, and best of luck whatever you are taking today in the Champions League. Someone asked me about a championship prediction. I tell you, the team I am keeping my eye out at the minute, I think it's going to really improve is Middlesbrough. I really like the direction they're heading. I think they'll beat Blackburn tonight, but Blackburn did have the weekend off because their match was postponed. So there might be a physical advantage there for Blackburn, but I am keeping my eye on Middlesbrough. Leeds Luton, my own team, I do expect Leeds to win, but it's going to be an emotional night for Leeds because it is the anniversary of Gary Speed's death, one of our former players. So they could be, who knows, when emotion gets involved in the game, anything can happen. Luton probably not as bad as the table suggests either. But best of luck whatever you take. Remember to gamble responsibly, and I'll see you tomorrow for Thanksgiving show with James Easton. Take care.